Ian, good evening. What's your question?
Hi, Daniel. I'm having to shield for health reasons. I got a shielding letter on the 5th and had to let my work down at very short notice for the following day. They are refusing to furlough me, and I believe that they're refusing to furlough me because I've had to let them down at such short notice.
And your question presumably is, can I sue them? Can I do anything about it?
Well, do they have to furlough me?
I'm afraid, Ian, the answer is no, they don't, which isn't the news you'll want to hear. And this is pretty clear from a lot of law, although there's been no formal court decision on it yet. It's something that's affecting a lot of people. Because in order to furlough somebody, both the employee and the employer have to agree to it. And there's no obligation on the employer to agree. Now, some employers could try to construct an argument that the duty of implied trust and confidence. Have you heard of that, Ian?
No.
Well, the duty of implied trust and confidence basically means that an employee has to act reasonably towards an employer, and the employer has to act reasonably towards the employee. So the argument that some employees try to construct is it would be reasonable for you to put me on furlough, therefore you should put me on furlough. Not putting me on furlough breaches the implied term of trust and confidence, and therefore I can resign and claim constructive dismissal, I can sue you, etc., etc. You've got to do it. The difficulty with that argument, and it sounds compelling when I set it out that way, but the difficulty with that argument is that employers have a defence if they have a good reason, if they have reasonable cause for not doing what the employee wants. And employers will have a good reason in this situation for not putting employees on furlough. And it's very simply this. It's that under the furlough scheme, employers have to pay 20% of salary, or at the very minimum, because at the moment the scheme's changed slightly and they don't have to pay that. It changed on the 1st of the month. Or at the very minimum, they have to pay the national insurance contributions, they have to pay pension contributions, and that adds up over a workforce. And so employers are not obliged to pay those monies for somebody who's not coming into work and not otherwise entitled to salary because they're at home shielding. I'm afraid, Ian, although it's tremendously unfair, the basis of the furlough scheme is that furlough has to be agreed to by the employer. If Rishi Sunak, the Chancellor, had wanted to compel employers to put shielding employees onto furlough, he could have done that very easily, but they haven't, and there's no requirement for your employer to put you on furlough. Ian, I'm very, very sorry to hear that. How long do you think you're going to be shielding for?
Till at least the 2nd, that's when shielding is meant to end. They have agreed to furlough me as of this Monday. But I can't understand why they won't furlough me from the 5th onwards, because from my understanding, if they have to pay my national insurance when furloughed, it's a cheaper alternative for them to pay my national insurance when furloughed than it is to pay them statutory sick pay. So
well, except for the fact, Ian, that they can reclaim the statutory sick pay from the government, or at least the first 14 days of it.
Okay.
Okay, so I think that might be the answer, Ian. Ian, I'm glad they're furloughing you now. At least there's some sort of result there. And I hope that you come off shielding and manage to get back to work very, very soon. Thank you so much for calling in.